Welcome to another fun-filled edition of Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom style.
Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Cindy Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, the video version, first right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. Videos drop every Monday and Friday. Once again, videos drop every Monday and Friday right here on YouTube at War Media. You can catch our audio version, which will be released every Tuesday and Saturday at War on Anchor. Once again, every Tuesday and every Saturday, the audio version at War on Anchor. We are available, on all podcast platforms. Just make sure you type in that search engine box, WARR on Anchor. You can go to our website, weareregalradio.com for more details. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. And you can follow us on all social media platforms, including right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and right here on YouTube. Thank you in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Subscribe. Mm-hmm. And we are unapologetically fun. And let's kick it off, Lakeena, as usual, with baseball. And let's talk about my favorite team, the Chicago White Sox. Yes, the first place, 36-23 as of this recording. Chicago White Sox, the first place team in the American League Central. They took 3 out of 4 from the bad place cheating ass AJ Hinch Detroit Tigers over the weekend on the South Side. Lakeena, before we break this series down, let's run down the scores. The first game, which was last Thursday, they defeated the Tigers 4-1. Last Friday, thank you to the Yamaneta, Yermin Mercedes. They defeated the Tigers 9-8 in 9 innings. The Tigers came back on Saturday to defeat the Sox 4-3. Of course, on Sunday, Dylan Cease's 10 strikeout performance shut out the Tigers 10-0. Lakeena, I noticed a couple of things. Of course, I was there in attendance for the series finale last Sunday. I noticed a couple of things. The White Sox offense, they can produce runs when they have to. In the pitching, minus Lucas Giolito's performance last Saturday, their starting pitching has been outstanding. Number 2, Adam Engel. His return to the lineup Sunday. I know Billy Hamilton, who's been a cult hero for most Sox fans for the last couple of weeks, he's on the 10-day IL, the injured list, because he strained the injury on his right side during a plate appearance last Saturday. Adam Engel, we've been waiting for his return all season long. He's not that great with the bat, but he is great with the glove. And we saw that in Sunday's game, robbing the Detroit Tigers of a home run during the 5th inning of the 3-0 win last Sunday. Lakeena, the defense is on point, but the starting pitching, that's where this team is identified. That's where this team's strength is. That's where this team is being led by right now. As I said early in the season, especially with all the injuries that they have been dealing with, the White Sox will have to take a page out of the 2005 World Championship playbook, and that's the way they're going to have to win ball games. Right now, they are doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like to be clicking all cylinders finally for them. I mean, their pitching has been really solid. You know, Giolito, even though had his struggles initially, but, the good news is that the Sox were able to win that game thanks to Mercedes. And, I mean, look, I think this is sort of like the consistency. Like, even the middle relief has been really solid for the White Sox in these last few games. And, you did what you're supposed to do. You did what you're supposed to do. You lost one game, but from that series, but that's fine. Look, it happens. A sweep would be good. A sweep, you will love a sweep, but look, it's okay. They were able to salvage the series, and that's what you expect them to do. And I think, look, this is like, the perfect time for them to be clicking on all cylinders right now if you're a White Sox fan. And I mean, I think, look, Cleveland's not going to go away. KC isn't going away, and I think if you're the White Sox, you want to try to kind of beat the teams that you can beat. Detroit's one of those teams. So, they're good, but they're not, they're not like they're still like a couple of seasons away. Detroit is, so you should be able to beat them. You have a tough one starting tonight against Toronto, against that offense. their pitching is, a little suspect, but, there could be like 8-7 or 7-6, those type of games. I don't be surprised if we see that. So now, going back here, but look, I think that your middle relief has actually been pretty good lately. They haven't given up. I think they only gave up like 1 or 2 runs during that whole series with Detroit. Look, I think your defense has been pretty solid. Look, Tim Anderson doing what he always does. Mercedes actually got out of that slump. What a way to do it, with a walk-off. But, look, I think if you're a White Sox fan, you got to be feeling pretty good right now.
You have to be feeling pretty good if you're a White Sox fan. As I mentioned, the defense is actually playing well right now. The middle relief is starting to come through right now. I don't think I mentioned this in our last episode, Lakeena, but congratulations to Liam Hendriks. He's been my, for lack of a better term, punching bag at points throughout early parts of the season, but he won the American League Reliever of the Month for the month of May. Congratulations to him on that. He's converted, I believe, 11 saves in a row right now. He did it again last Sunday in the series finale against the Tigers. So the White Sox, right now, they look like geniuses by signing him as a free agent in the offseason. Aaron Bummer last Sunday, he actually looked good for once. I know it was against a bad team, but you need to start building confidence in him. He needs to start performing. He looked good. Cody Hewer looks good as a young reliever. Like I said, Matt Foster, I've been really impressed with all season long. He's been the most consistent one coming out of that bullpen. Of course, Michael Kopech, he's their long relief guy. He's currently on the IL dealing with a hamstring injury. Hopefully he'll be back soon. And so the bullpen, hopefully these are signs that they're starting to come around. And so you like to see that continue. Now, looking at the matchup with the Toronto Blue Jays, as you mentioned, Game 1 will start tonight on the south side. You have Lance Lynn going. And then, of course, Wednesday, tomorrow, for those of you listening on the audio version, you'll have Dallas Keuchel. And then Thursday, Keuchel will go Thursday. Lance Lynn will go tomorrow.
Yeah.
Carlos Rodon will go tonight. So Rodon, then you have Lynn tomorrow, then Dallas Keuchel on Thursday. I'm really concerned about Dallas Keuchel. Hopefully this is just a rough spot for him right now. I know he hasn't been pitching that great in his last 2 to 3 starts. I was at the game last week during the doubleheader against Baltimore. He didn't pitch that great, but he pitched well enough for the Sox to give the Sox the chance to win. Of course, the Sox won that doubleheader. And, of course, his last start against the Tigers didn't look that great, but the Sox somehow found a way to win that game against the bad Detroit Tigers team. So this is a really important start for Dallas Keuchel coming up in this series as they kick it off tonight on Southside against Toronto. As we talked about before, Lakeena, I know we'll get to the rest of the MLB from the weekend later on, but the Toronto Blue Jays, they can score runs, folks. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he can hit the ball just like his daddy. And he's going to try to do that in this series against the Sox. Of course, you have Dante Bichette's son on the ball club. You have Craig Biggio's son on the ball club now. And so you have some boppers down there lineup. So it's not going to be easy for the Sox, but I believe they'll rise to the challenge. You should do no worse than take 2 out of 3 from these guys. So I'm very encouraged to see what I'm looking at from the White Sox right now. Just making sure that starting staff still stays on point.
Yeah, I think that's what you need to do, especially with a team that can hit the ball like the Blue Jays. So, look, hopefully Keuchel can get it together for that start. I mean, they should be able. They've been their pitching's been questionable. Toronto, their pitching's been inconsistent. That's kind of the reason why their record's where they are right now. We'll talk about them in the whole MLB in a second, but. I mean, there's no reason why the Sox. I know I've been lobbying for this Toronto team the last couple of years. They're still kind of a year away, I think. So there's no reason why the White Sox can't win 2 out of 3. Although, like I said, don't be surprised if you see like a 10-9 or 9-8, those kind of games, at least for a couple of them, because this could be one of those things where like it will really be like first to 10 runs or 9 runs wins, but that should be exciting nonetheless. But it should be a very exciting series, though. I mean, look, like I said, there's no reason why the White Sox shouldn't win it, but again, you try to kind of keep the wheels churning if you're the White Sox. Just keep the wheels churning. You haven't had any distractions. No one said anything stupid. Madrigal, we're back to liking Madrigal. We're still liking Madrigal again. So it just how White Sox fans how fickle they are about Madrigal at times. That's it. So as long as your pitching is doing well, look, Giolito didn't have his best start, like I said, on Saturday. But they were able to come, pull through and win that game. Maybe he should wear sunglasses and pretend like he's pitching at night. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Maybe that'll help his confidence. You know how quirky some pitchers are sometimes. But but look, like I said, there's no reason why the Sox can't win this series against the Blue Jays. I think they've got the talent to do it. Like I said, they've clearly got the edge in pitching over the Blue Jays. But again, you never know. We'll see.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown as we talk about the Chicago White Sox, the first place Chicago White Sox at 36-23. Lakeena, let's stay with the White Sox for a couple more minutes. We asked this question to Lamont Pope, the White Sox beat writer for the Chicago Tribune in our last episode over the weekend. Who should be the number 2 starter should the playoffs start today? I know he threw out Dallas Keuchel's name because of the experience. I know he's not been pitching that great lately. Maybe it will be him down the road, but I think your clear consensus number 1 starter will be Lance Lynn. And I know Tony La Russa trusts him. I know Lynn is a proven veteran, playoff veteran. I know he won a ring with La Russa in 2011. Mm-hmm. So Lance Lynn clearly will be a game 1 starter today if the playoffs will start today.
Yeah.
I have to ask you a question again, Lakeena.
Mm-hmm.
Who could be your number 2 starter for the playoffs as of right now, as of June 8th? Could it be Dylan Cease, based on what he did on Sunday against the Tigers? He's 7-0 against the Tigers in his career. He has 4 career 10-plus strikeout games. 3 of them have occurred already this season. You look at Lucas Giolito. He didn't have his best stuff on Saturday, but La Russa trusts him. He's the next starting pitcher that La Russa trusts because he leaves Giolito out there for at least 7 innings. Mm-hmm. So he's the poor version of Lance Lynn. So is Lucas Giolito your game 2 starter? Because in a short series in a division round, you really need 2 starting pitchers. And, of course, in the league championship series, in the World Series, you get that far, you really need 3 strong starters. So who would be your number 2 starter behind Lance Lynn in the playoffs in a division series? Will it be Giolito? Will it be Dylan Cease? Could it be Carlos Rodon? You have to throw him in the mix as well.
You think the easy answer would be Giolito, right?
You would think.
Yeah, again, I think that this might be a good problem, I guess, for Tony La Russa to have to find out, okay, you look, Lynn, you give experience with Lynn, but then Keuchel's got some postseason experience too, so you want to try and maybe get him in that 3rd spot. So I think probably Giolito, would be, for me, I think it's easy, but I don't know.
I think right now for me, it would be Carlos Rodon
yeah,
or Dylan Cease.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. You can make a case for all those guys, and I think, look, this is a kind of a good problem to have if you're Tony La Russa, and once you get to that point where you have to think about playoff rotation. But I think right now, Lynn's probably the number 1 guy. I think for me, Giolito would be the 2nd guy. I think Keuchel would probably be that 3rd guy. That's just my playoff rotation as of right now. Again, ask me again in about a month, so that it could change.
I heard a couple of people throw around this idea that when Michael Kopech gets back, and assume that he doesn't get hurt for the rest of the season, and he keeps this coming out of the bullpen and makes spot starts. Heaven forbid that anybody gets hurt in that starting rotation. You should throw him out there for 1 playoff game to start. I was like, that's not a good idea. I think you leave him in there, barring injury, of course. You leave him in the bullpen come playoff time. Your bullpen's already strong because, like you mentioned, Lakeena, whoever doesn't get the starting nods in the playoffs, assuming that you advance to the championship series or perhaps the World Series, let's just say if it was Lance Lynn, Giolito, and Keuchel, those are your 3 top starters. The rest of the starting staff will obviously obviously go to the bullpen, and you have Kopech barring injury. That makes your middle relief and your bullpen even stronger. So starting Kopech right now in the playoff game, no, not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he needs to be starting consistently. I think that's going to be like the thing.
Exactly.
You really
Exactly.
can't put him out there if he hasn't started consistently. You don't want to put him in a playoff situation where if it's like game 5 or something like that, or a pivotal game 5, or if it's a game 6 where you have to, you're trying to stay alive. I don't think you want to put him in that situation, especially since
Hmm.
you haven't really put him much as a starter. You're gonna have to give him some more,
Hmm.
some more some more starts as a starter before
Hmm.
you can even think about even putting him in a starting rotation, in the regular
Exactly.
season. So I think you just gotta, like, for people who want him to be part of that starting rotation, I think let's have him start on a consistent basis in the rotation first before
Hmm.
you start putting him, talk about putting him in the playoff as part of your playoff rotation. I think that's kind of backwards thinking there. But again, that's just me.
Taking a look at the White Sox schedule coming up for this coming week. Of course, as we mentioned, they have a 3-game series against Toronto on the south side. And then, of course, this coming weekend, you'll have a 3-game series at the D against Detroit. And, of course, next week they'll host Tampa for 3 games before going back out on the road for a big 4-game series against the Houston Astros. Lakeena, this is the time for the White Sox to make hay. You're currently have a 4-game lead in the division as of this recording over Cleveland. This is a good team, folks. So get out there and support this team. I know things are starting to open up again. We'll talk about that later, but support this team. This team is starting to come together, and even despite the injuries, they're more consistent. You getting great starting pitching. The defense is starting to turn around, and with the weather heating up, especially here in Chicago, the offense is starting to come around. So, folks, you want to check out a game with the White Sox. I know some White Sox fans travel well to other cities. Please do that if you could do that. But support these fans on the south. Support this team on the south side. I know on this coming Friday that it'll be open to 100% capacity. I know their next home games with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays next week, they'll still be, as of right now, they'll still be operating under the 60% capacity rule. Rumor has it they may open it up to 100% before then. If not, their next homestand, which will be Friday, June 25th, they'll officially open up to fans with 100% capacity. So I know already that the White Sox have had 8 sellouts with the capacity limit already this season. So fans are coming out. So hopefully fans will continue to come out, and we know for sure, unless barring a major collapse, that this team will keep on running. So hopefully more Sox fans will come out to support this team.
Yeah, and the tickets are pretty cheap too. So I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody, look, if you're a White Sox fan, you want to see this team, I think you guys definitely should check out because it's definitely worth the price of admission. So, Sid, let's go to the north side right now.
Yeah, we had to get you out to a game or two, Lakeena.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said before, I mean, I'm not there yet. So, give me to like the end of August. Maybe we can maybe I can go to a game with you guys then. But I mean, let's go to the
Mm-hmm.
north side for this for a second. The Cubs were able to salvage a win against a very tough Giants team.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, thankfully they won that game on Sunday because they would have been swept, and then that would have been a good look, and Cubs fans would have gone crazy again. But look, Patrick Wisdom, I mean, a rookie, had 2 homers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look, he was just like, you can't really play with his name too much, maybe words of wisdom or something like that. It doesn't have like the same like pizzazz as like Yermin Mercedes. You can't like,
I was
maybe
going to say, do you treat him like Yermin Mercedes right now?
yeah, well, yeah, but that's true too. But yeah, but look, I mean, he was the reason why the Cubs were able to salvage that win. They have a very tough series going on right now against the Padres, who they swept, right here in Chicago over at Wrigley.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, hopefully, they could probably win the series there, so they can have a solid 500 record, from out west. So. But we'll get to the rest of the NL Central because things are getting pretty interesting and there's a lot of jam now. But what do you think about the Cubs in that series against the Giants?
I think I still have some more work to do as far as producing runs offensively. I watched some of that game on Saturday. Whoever the announcers were, they were terrible. I think it was Aaron Goldsmith, whoever the hell his name is, and Ryan Sweeney, the former baseball player. They were terrible. But I'll digress from that. But the Cubs, it seems like when they start to heat up offensively, they usually put the foot on their necks on their opponents. But when they struggle to score runs without the long ball, as we talked about before, Lakeena, they struggle. And I know the bullpen, especially the middle has carried them these last couple of weeks. You don't expect them to do that for the whole year, shutting out their opponents off the scoreboard. But this Cubs team needs to score runs consistently. Looks like they're starting to do that. As you mentioned, Patrick Wisdom, he's the third player in baseball history to hit 7 home runs in his first 8 games. That's amazing. Do I expect it to be this power hero for the rest of the season? Probably not, and that's okay. You need role players like that to do their job and know what to do. As we said before, Major League Baseball, when a player comes out that is unknown, he can hit the cover of the ball for a while, but when your opponents adjust, can you make the adjustment back to be more consistent? That's the key. And if you can't do that, you won't be in a Major League uniform for long.
Yeah, I think if you're a Cubs fan, I think you should be riding this right now. The pitching, starting pitching didn't really have a good. It just really didn't work for the Cubs. I mean, Arrieta had a horrible start on Friday. Zach Davies were able to kind of hung on for a little bit, but then Brandon Crawford, he's showing you why he's like probably one of the front runners for National League MVP. Like I said, Wisdom, Hendricks had a solid start after coming back from a bad start. So, he was able to kind of settle himself down there. So, I mean, look, there were a couple, maybe 1 or 2 of those games against the Giants that you probably said the Cubs probably should have won. There was some like weird things that happened late in some of those games, but look, you salvage a win, in this series. We'll see how you do against the Padres. You got to, play in San Diego. So that should be, that'll be fun. I'm sure the Padres will love to enact some revenge after being swept at Wrigley. I'm sure they're good. They definitely want to win. So let I would say maybe just try to win, at least win the series. That way you can kind of get back on that track. Because I think you kind of went off track a little bit with that Giants series.
Let's talk about Kyle Hendricks, Lakeena, who picked up the win last Sunday in the series finale, which was very much needed. He didn't look great. I know he has a 7-4 record overall for the season. He just hasn't been himself, but he did enough to keep the Cubs in the ball game, pitching 6 in the third inning, giving up 3 earned runs. He had 3 walks, but he struck out 5. Lakeena, I want to say that he's turned the corner, and I want to say he's not going to be the Kyle Hendricks of a few years ago, but if he does just enough to keep his team in the ball game, they'll be okay. Would you accept that?
I think Cubs fans would accept it. I think that they know that this is sort of like this. I don't want to say there's a cycle of Hendricks, but this is sort of like what you get. I mean, he didn't have a really good April. Kind of bounced back a little bit in May. Had a struggle on Sunday, but it was able to kind of settle down and kind of finished up strong. And I think, look, if you can get that sort of like consistency from Hendricks, I think you're in pretty good shape. Now, the guy I'm worried about right now is Arrieta. Gave up 4 runs. That's who I'm worried about right now. And hopefully, maybe it's just that he had a really bad start. You don't want, especially if you're trying to talk about contending in the National League Central, which is still very winnable, by the way. I mean, you need to, I'm worried about Arrieta right now. I think Cubs fans are more worried about him than they are about Hendricks.
Yeah, we talked about it early in the season. Gary Arrieta was the Cubs' best pitcher, coming out winning I believe 4 of his first 5 starts. And, of course, he suffered an injury, which set him back. And then now since he's back, he struggled his last couple of starts. As we told you guys before the season kicked off, Jake Arrieta from 2015, 2016, you're not going to see him anymore. If he does just enough to keep your team in ball games, that's going to be enough because he's an older pitcher. He's not going to blow you by with great stuff like he did in the past. So whatever you get out of Jake Arrieta, providing that he stays healthy, that's what you're going to get. It's a bonus for this team. Now, you mentioned Trevor Williams and Zach Davies. I know that both of them have been struggling. I know Patrick Williams. Not Patrick Williams. Good grief. Trevor Williams. He picked up a win a couple of starts ago. So I don't know if that he's finally turned the corner, but we'll see about that. Zach Davies has kind of been up and down. So if you're general manager Jed Hoyer, I know he was on inside the clubhouse on the flagship 6-7 to score in Chicago on Saturday. I don't know if you caught the interview, but since now that Wrigley Field will be hosting 100% capacity starting this coming Friday in the big series against St. Louis, we know fans show up at Wrigley Field in droves, and it's close to a sellout almost every home game. The Cubs will have more than enough money to go make a acquisition at the trade deadline. if you ask me what the Cubs need right now, a big bat or starting pitching, it has to be starting pitching.
Yeah, I think that's what they need right now, and I think they don't have that. Now they just reloaded their farm system, so if you're Jed Hoyer, you're probably gonna have to be creative because I don't think you want to give up some of that stuff. You don't want to get up, guys like Ed Howard and guys like that. So you're probably gonna have to be a little bit creative. I mean, look, Jed learned under Theo. He's shown that he can get some moves out of his hat. So we'll see what he decides to do. And like you said, so they can't the ownership can't play poor anymore with full capacity coming up this weekend. And you're going to have money coming in, especially since the team's actually pretty decent. You're not going to do the whole we can't spend. You're going to have to add. And even Jeff Passan
they have money, folks.
Yeah, and
they rebuilt the whole neighborhood over there.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jeff Passan does a great job, covering baseball for ESPN. He said, look, they're going to add. They didn't look. I think that they are ahead of schedule, but they are going to add. So how they're going to do that? Like I said, Jed Hoyer's going to have to be creative, and I'm sure he's not going to want to trade some of his top prospects who they just reloaded in their farm system. So you're going to have to be a little creative. Do you get? Again, we'll talk more about this, in about a month. Once as the trade deadline approaches, do you get maybe like a Max Scherzer or somebody like that? So, look, I think if you're Jed Hoyer, I think this is a good problem to have here, Jed Hoyer, because you didn't really think that you'd be contending. You're actually a pretty decent team. You're pitching. You're gonna need another, because I think you have the best. Look, if you can find another veteran bat for cheap, go for it. But you're gonna need a starting pitcher more than anything. So, and we'll see what Jed decides to do.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We are talking about the Chicago Cubs. We'll get to the best and the worst from the weekend from the rest of MLB in just a second. Lakeena, let me put this question out there. I know we're going to talk about this 1,000 times between now and July 31st. If you're Jed Hoyer, Wilson Contreras is under contract, I believe, 2 more years after this year. Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, free agents after this year. And the Cubs are still contending on July 31st, which I believe they will. Do you still think about trading one or both of them to load up your farm system? Or do you just play common sense and re-sign both of them in the offseason and then perhaps maybe trade one of them next season? Because that's a tough dilemma that this Cubs team will have to face at some point.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing. Where are you going to have guys that both of them going to be willing to take a team discount? Look, Chris Bryant's agent is Scott Boras, so I don't think Boras is going to let him take a team discount. Like, I think if you're Jed Hoyer, you have to play smart. You have to play smart with this, and I think that if you Look, you're not going to pay Bryant $280 million. You're not going to be able to do that. So, maybe if you get maybe give him 210, or maybe you can sign Javi for 160 or something like that. Just have a lot of it, instead of do something similar to what you did with Jason Hayward. Way back when, maybe have put in that kind of contract. That's something you may have to do. Have to kind of be creative here, and do you maybe trade one? And perhaps try to reload your farm system again. I mean, it depends on how you want to do this, because you're not going to be able to sell the fan base that, look, we want to contend up 3 or 4 years. No, you want to try to contend consistently every year. So that's probably, like I said a couple of minutes ago, that yes, in this case, you're in a very tough spot, you're Jed Hoyer. So we'll see what he does. Look, he's a pretty smart guy. Like I said, he learned for years under Theo, so he kind of know, but he has his own style of doing things. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does here, because I'm sure they will. Look, I believe the Cubs will still be contending by the trade deadline. So he's going to have to try to be creative, and perhaps try to see if he can do it just a player swap and not have to give up some of your guys from your farm system, which you just reloaded. So we'll see.
As we said before the regular season, Lakeena, you are now year 2 of this new Cubs network, the Marquee Network. And do you want to go into year 3, year 4, year 5 rebuilding as you create this new network? No, that'll be bad for business. I know it will make sense baseball-wise, but business sense, even though this network, as we mentioned, is in year 2, is still new, you don't want to do that just yet. It will have bad optics.
And you're not going to be able to sell that to the fan base either. So
Exactly.
So you're going to have to be creative and try to maneuver some money, and if you have to, but you're not going to be able to sell a rebuild for another 2-3 years to the Cubs fan base that finally got a taste of getting a World Series ring, winning a World Series. You're not going to be able to sell that to the fan base now.
No, you're not. All right, Lakeena, let's move on to the best and the worst from this past weekend from around Major League Baseball. What stood out to you the most?
Boston, I guess Boston is showing you that maybe they're not, maybe they're not, they probably will be contending. I mean, their hitting has been, amazing. They swept the Yankees. I mean, look, they've won 4 in a row as of this recording, and I look, their pitching has been really good. Their hitting has been good. JD Martinez has been, been hitting the doors off the ball. And I mean, look, this could be like just a blip in the radar if you're a Yankees fan. You're not feeling very good right now. The fact that you got swept by your rivals again, well, a lot could happen. Look, all these teams are gonna have to play each other for the next few weeks, so I think we'll see what happens in the AL East. That should be interesting too. I would also say that the Dodgers, not so much. They didn't have a very good week. They have a lot of injuries right now. Some of those guys are starting to come back. We'll see if they can kind of right this ship, because look, the Padres have also had their struggles too. So we'll see what happens. But no one has like this really big hot streak up, besides the Red Sox, I guess you can say. Everyone else has kind of been like up and down this weekend. I know the Mets won their series, and the Braves won theirs, and the Phillies won theirs, and the Cubs have to play the Mets later, early next week. So that's gonna be a big series for them. The Phillies are kind of right there too. So yeah, there really hasn't been this big stand out. I mean, yeah, the Brewers have won 4 in a row as of this recording. That's why they're now tied with the Cubs. But their hitting, I still question their hitting. Their pitching is really solid, but their hitting's been inconsistent. They're kind of like the Cubs in a lot of ways. So I don't really expect them to be up there either. But again, deGrom, had a nice sign over the weekend too. He has a major league leading 7.71 ERA. It's the best ERA to the end of May since 1968. So, that's like, I think he's probably like, that wise, he's probably like the best, standout to me.
Yeah, as usual, Lakeena steals one of my talking points, but I wanted to talk about Jacob deGrom's performance from the Mets last Saturday as part of the 4-0 win against the San Diego Padres. He struck out 11. Ever since he came back from the injury early in the season, Lakeena, Jacob deGrom has looked strong. As we told you guys before, he's what makes that engine go for the New York Mets, period. But for their starting staff, and Noah Syndergaard, their other stud pitcher, is still down with an injury. Maybe he'll return later on in the year. But I don't know even though the Mets took 2 out of 3 in San Diego, if you're a Padres fan, don't get worried just yet. I know you're playing the Cubs as we record this, but if you're a Padres fan, don't worry. You still have a good team. It's a long way to go, so you should be fine. But on the other side for the Mets, as I said in our last episode, Lakeena, I think this Mets team is good. I know Francisco Lindor finally broke out last weekend, but do you trust them? I'm still in the wait-and-see mode. I know Atlanta took 2 out of 3, as you mentioned, Lakeena. I watched some of that series. I'm waiting. Which team? Here's the question from the NL East: which team do you trust to go on the hot streak? The Mets or the Braves? Because both teams haven't done it yet.
I'm doing a shrugs emoji for people who are going to be watching this. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know, because I think like both these teams have had their struggle, especially early on. So I don't know. I mean, look, I'm sure Mets fans are still wondering themselves, and also the Braves fans too. I'm sure they're wondering, are either of these teams, to be trusted? Or the Phillies say, look, don't forget about us. We're right there too. So, like I said, that AL East is still going to be up for grabs, and we'll see like in a couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. We'll see what they do. I think Houston and Oakland perhaps could probably be, going back and forth. I mean, I think Houston led for a little bit, but then, they lost. They didn't have a very good week. Now Oakland is leading by 1 game right now as this recording. So we'll see where they are. The Blue Jays have, like I said earlier, have had their struggles lately. the Yankees, have lost 4 in a row, including getting swept by the Red Sox. So that's, that's another thing too. So I think, we'll see. Like, the weird thing about these divisions, especially the ones that are very, very close, that all these divisions can change in a drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
Now Milwaukee's tied with the Cubs right now in the NL Centrals, and no one really saw that coming. So I don't know. Well, talk to me in about another week, I guess.
Yeah, as I told you in our preview show, the Milwaukee Brewers are the scariest team. They're the wild card, no pun intended. And look what's happening now. You just said they're tied with the Cubs for the top lead into this NL Central division. The Cardinals got swept in their backyard against the Cincinnati Reds. As of this recording, the Reds are 1 game under 500. The Cardinals, I do trust that they'll get it together, but they're not as strong as they have been in years past. You saw some of that last year too in a shortened 60-game season. So I still believe the Cardinals will be there somehow at the end, but the NL Central, no one's going to run away with this division.
No, we've said that for like the last month, and I don't think that's going to be the case either. Going through some of these matchups you got coming up this week. I mean, Miami and Boston are going to play a short series. That's going to be interesting too. Kansas City, they go at Los Angeles to play the Angels, the Southern California Angels of Orange County. I don't know what that means at this point. Atlanta plays Philly. See, like I said, we're gonna get some of our answers in the NL East. The Dodgers hoping to bounce back. They got the Pirates. The Mets, they play Baltimore. The Rockies play Miami. Some of the couple of those were makeup games. That game against Miami against Boston, that was a makeup game from earlier in the season. Houston will play Boston. That should be a fun one. Milwaukee and Cincy, Seattle and Detroit, Washington and Tampa, San Fran and Texas, New York and Minnesota, Toronto and Chicago, like we mentioned, Cleveland and St. Louis, the Royals at the Angels, the Diamondbacks and the A's, and the Cubs and the Padres. Those are some of the series. Some of the series are going to be kicking off tonight.
Going back to that Twins Yankees series, Lakeena, I want to see how the Yankees bounce back, especially after being swept by the arch rival over the weekend. This Minnesota team, they're not good. If for those of you listening and watching our show here in Chicago, of course, as again during Friday night's postgame show on NBC Sports Chicago, he gave the official goodbye kiss of death to the Minnesota Twins as far as winning the division this year. Bye-bye. I want to see how the Yankees turn it around against a subpar Twins team. Maybe going on the road is the best thing for this Yankees team. They did not look great this weekend. As we talked about before, now with the injury to Corey Kluber in their starting pitching staff, how can they muster up quality starts outside of Garrett Cole and youngster Jordan Montgomery? Where are they going to get the other guys from to help at least give them some 5 or 6 innings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be interesting, right?
And can they get any consistent offense as well?
Yeah, that's been the problem for them. Unfortunately, now that Klu's going to be out for a few more weeks. I mean, that's going to be the thing. Their pitching. You saw what happened with their pitching against the Red Sox. It did not look good at all. So
yeah, that bullpen has been terrible.
Yeah. Aldis Chapman. What happened to you, my friend? But yeah. So we'll see what happens with the Yankees. I mean, I'm sure the Yankees fans are not going to be very happy. I'm looking forward to see like what some of these teams are going to be able to separate from themselves from their divisions, or are we going to be right back to where we started, right now as we're recording this. You're listening to. Oh, sorry. Live, folks. We're live, folks.
Yeah. You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. Lakeena, since we have a few minutes left in this first segment, let's transition over to basketball. We'll give you our reviews from the second round games that opened up this past weekend in our next segment. But Lakeena, to close out this opening segment, we'll review games 6 and 7 from the Los Angeles Clippers Dallas Mavericks series. Of course, on our last episode as we recorded, I said the Dallas Mavericks should have assumed that they won against the Clippers. That did not happen. And yours truly was happy. You know why? because the Clippers did something that many people didn't expect them to do. After losing Game 5 the way they did, of course, we ranted and raved about that in our last episode. The Clippers actually came through. They won a big road game in Game 6. Thank you, Kawhi Leonard, scoring another 40-point piece. And then, of course, last Sunday, they finished off the Dallas Mavericks by the score of 126 to 111. Both superstars came through, i.e. Paul George, i.e. Kawhi Leonard, who had 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. He was one assist away from a triple-double. Luka Doncic, in his first Game 7 of his career, dropped in 46 points and dished out 14 assists. Lakeena, let's go back to Friday's game. The Clippers, in that first half, looked like they were going to lose it again, but in the second half, they came through. They played much better defense. As I mentioned, Kawhi Leonard came through with some big three-pointers with under 2 minutes left to go. He hit 2 of them, I believe, and the Clippers held on to win that game. Now, in Game 7, they started to turn it around with some hot shooting. The Dallas Mavericks stayed with them in that first half, but in that third quarter, towards the end of that third quarter, you saw the real Clippers starting to show up, and they took the game over from that point on, and they earned the Game 7 victory.
Yeah, I think they definitely, if you're a Clippers fan, you gotta be, breathing a sigh of relief. I mean, and Kawhi showed you why he's becoming like one of the kings in the playoffs. With 28, Marcus Morris Sr. He had 23, definitely a career playoff high for him. Paul George had 22. Nicholas Batum had made some big defensive rebounds. He had 11. And look, I think we saw a little bit of this is a Clippers team we finally are seeing, and that we all expected. Terrence Mann had 13 off the bench, made some big plays too. So I think they were starting to see, I think the Clippers, we might actually be seeing the real Clippers. Who knows? We'll see. It's going to be tough. I mean, they're going to be facing a pretty good Utah team. So again, we'll talk more about that in our next segment. But look, Ty Lue improves his 4-0 at all time in Game 7s. The only other head coach that has that good of a record for Game 7s is Red Auerbach. He went 8-0. So he joined some pretty exclusive company there. I mean, look, Doncic. I mean, look, he had 46 points. 50. Dorian Finney-Smith had 18. Tim Hardaway Jr., he was a little bit banged up. He only was able to have 11. Porzingis had a double-double. Marjanovic had a double-double, but that wasn't enough. So, look, I think if you're Dallas, I think you're probably you're wondering what direction do you want to take your team. I mean, you've got Doncic, but some of the supporting cast, you may have to get rid of some of those guys. Again, that's another discussion. But, yeah, as for the Clippers, I think, look, we'll see if maybe they finally have turned the corner and exercised those demons from last year in the bubble. We'll see what they do against Utah. We'll talk about that. And like I said, on the other side. But, I like what I saw. I mean, look, we all thought that they were a goner in that Friday night game in Game 6. We all thought that was going to be it. But, Kawhi showing you why he's one of the best playoff, players of all time. So, and you saw that. You saw it in Game 7, too. He stepped up and made some big shots, too, with Game 7 on Sunday.
I know some people want to question the leadership skills of Kawhi Leonard. He was outspoken in Toronto. Of course, he was the leader of that team that won the 2019 NBA championship. I know people questioned his leadership skills last year, especially during the bubble, along with Paul George. Now, some guys can lead by example. Some people lead by their words. Some people could do both. I think for Kawhi Leonard, at least for this year, he's choosing to lead by example, and he did that in these last 2 games. Now he needs to keep that up in the series against Utah. As Lakeena mentioned, we'll preview that series on the other side. But some people are leaders in different ways. Everybody can't be everything to everybody. So for Kawhi Leonard, as of right now, is working. He's choosing to be a leader on the court, and you saw that in these last 2 games against Dallas, with the Clippers' backs against the wall. You see how people respond. Paul George responded in a positive light. Kawhi Leonard obviously did it, but Marcus Morris Sr., as Lakeena mentioned, reading off his stats from game